Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome to my end of December patch review. This video was late because this is the fourth time I've recorded it. Yeah, I'm having really bad luck with this one, so recorded the first one, and then I didn't have time to upload it, and I went to go stream, and discovered I made a whole bunch of mistakes with the cards. I was like, okay. So then I re-recorded it after the stream, and the sound was off. And the third time I recorded it, it was in the game client, so I decided to do it in the game client to show all the card changes, and my overlay blocked everything. So yeah, not been having good luck with this particular video, but anyway, we're gonna get through this. So the metagame going into this patch was Vetruvian Magmar dominating, Lionar at the top of tier 2, and then every other class below it, and then Vanar kind of on the floor. So that was the metagame. So the idea behind this patch was three things. The first one was to nerf down the tier 1 decks, obviously. Second was actually to nerf AoE because they felt AoE was too strong, cheap AoE. And the third was to buff Vanar both directly and indirectly. So they kind of achieved that, but we'll go over how they did it. Now I'm going to have this in crafting mode so that I can bring up the cards in a slightly bigger image. So the first thing we got is Tempest. Now I've been told this is actually the old Tempest, but the really old Tempest, 2 mana deal 2 damage instead of 3 mana deal 3 damage, and this is a decent nerf. It's not just a rebalance. It is a direct nerf. Well, kind of is direct nerf. You can combo with more stuff, and it doesn't take off your own Arclight Regalia charges or kill any of your stuff, but it also doesn't kill a lot of their stuff anymore. The thing about AoEs now is they're trying to make them deal 2 damage each, so Mana Burn is now an AoE without silence, and you've got Kinetic Equilibrium, which is 1 more mana, but you can buff your own stuff with it, and then you've got Bone Swarm, and now you've got Tempest, and you also have the one in Abyssian that no one can ever remember the name of. But anyway, so the idea is that cheap AoEs hit for 2, and then you have to pay a lot to get your heavy hitting AoEs, like Holy Immolation, like Aspect of the Mountain. You have to pay more to get your damage. I think I like this design, and the reason for it is because it means that Vanar was bad because it's a creature-based playstyle. You have to play creatures to win. You can't just win from hand. And every single card they had died to Tempest and Plasma Storm. It was kind of funny. I think Razorback was the only thing that dodged Plasma Storm, more or less, and Tempest just killed everything apart from Voice. Yeah, 4/4. Is it called Voice? But anyway, it killed every single card apart from Voice of the Wind. So, yep, buffed Vanar, but Tempest will still see play. It's still handy. It'll see less play, but it's still quite a powerful card. It's probably going to be played in aggro now because it doesn't wipe any of your own stuff anymore. So it'll probably be played in aggro now, but you might see a bit more focus on some of the other removal in Lionar. But anyway, they had to do something to Lionar, because otherwise it would just be the best deck, not close with the other nerfs. Anyway, Songhai received 0 changes, much to a lot of people's surprise, but I don't know, it makes sense to me. Vetruvian got quite a few. So the first one is Cosmic Flesh. I won't talk about this too much. Cosmic Flesh was a terrible card. It was 4 mana +2/+4, which is really bad. And so they redesigned it to a cheap buff spell. +1/+3 and Provoke. I don't think this will see constructed play, but I think it's a very, very good Gauntlet card. It might see a little bit of constructed play, but I wouldn't bet on it. But it's a nice Gauntlet card now, and honestly, that's good. Because Vitruvian drafting was always a bit strange, because it was just half of your commons are insane and the other half are really bad. So it's depending on your luck, you either drafted a 12-win deck or a 2-win deck. So yeah, now it's a little bit less variant in that regard. Alright, there's less variance there. Next card, Portal Guardian got the nerf bat. So Portal Guardian is now a 0/6. It lost 3 health. This is a huge deal. Portal Guardian was a broken card, beyond belief. I always found it kind of funny when I remember people talking about 3-drops and they're like, Fenrir Warmaster is the best 3-drop. And then you'd have a Lionar player saying, hang on a sec, we have a comparable one. And then the one guy walking past saying, you know Portal Guardian costs 3 mana, right? And then it's oh yeah, forgot about that. It's basically a 4-drop. It was stupid. So yeah, now they've changed it to 0/6, and Portal Guardian is no longer an indestructible 3-drop. Like, it was so stupid. You had to do hard removal on a 3-drop. Like, you didn't have an option. If you silenced it, they just third wished it over and over and over again. It's like, ugh, okay. So yeah, now it's actually killable, which is nice. And personally, I don't think this will be seeing play. I think it's a fringe card in Obelisk decks. I might be wrong, but I think it's a fringe. I mean, if this sees a lot of, if this is in every Vetruvian deck, I'm going to be laughing because it shows how broken the other one was. But it's still quite powerful. In Gauntlet, it's still a very, very good card. But in Constructed, I think it might fall off in playability a little bit. Next card, we've got Scion's Third Wish, the most anticipated change in the entire patch. So it used to give 9 damage for 3 mana and offered 15 damage burst combos with Star's Fury, but now it gives +3/+3 in Blast. A lot of people have been saying this is useless. Those people are crazy. Yeah, this card is actually kind of gross. First of all, if you get this in Gauntlet, I don't think you can lose a game you play it, but in Constructed, you can do some really silly things with it. It basically means that Star's Fury is completely impossible to play around. And I mean completely impossible to play around. If you spread your stuff out, they get a whole bunch of dervishes. If you put them all in a line, they go Star's Fury Third Wish and wipe your board. So, because you can give the dervish Blast, and it has Rush. So, yeah, I'm kind of worried about that. They did increase Star's Fury's cost to 5, and that's just because of Third Wish. The card itself wasn't too powerful because you can play around it, but Third Wish stops you from playing around it. So, yeah, they need to increase the cost. But yeah, this Third Wish is very, very wombo combo-y, but I mean, you can play it on a Jaxi and it's terrifying. It's kind of funny in that regard. They kind of have to silence it, and yeah, it sucks you don't get your mini Jax, but whatever. It also still works with Jax because you get a mini Jax in every corner, which means that you can pretty decisively get a good blast turn the turn after. Although it's not as good as it was, and I don't see Jax seeing a lot of play in Vetruvian anymore. I think it's more of a Vanar card now, because of Razorback. But the other interaction with this is the Tiger. You can, for 6 mana, play a Tiger, and you can move your General, then move the Tiger, so it basically has Airdrop, because it has Blast as well. And you get a, for 6 mana, 2-card combo, a 6/5 with Rush and Blast. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of the Zenrui combo with, what's it called, Blast Scorch? But anyway, you reduce something's attack to 0, and then you steal it. Yeah, Blind Scorch. It kind of reminds me of that combo, and that combo has seen a decent amount of play, but the difference between Blind Scorch, Zenrui, and this is that Tiger and Third Wish are much more useful on their own. Like, Zenrui is situational, and Blind Scorch is only good with Zenrui, whereas Scion's Third Wish is good on any creature, and Tiger is decent removal, and you don't have that kind of removal in Vetruvian anyway. So some decks were already playing Tiger, so it's not even that much of a stretch. Now, the last change was to Star's Fury, which I already mentioned. It's increase in cost because they don't want you to be able to play for 7 mana, wipe the board. So yeah, it has to cost your entire turn, and I think that's fair enough. No changes for Abyssian, although they did get a buff to one of their cards, which is the Blood Moon Priestess, because it doesn't die to Tempest anymore, and Plasma Storm costs more. So yeah. On to Magmar. Now, Magmar got 2 changes. They got a pretty big one to Mana Burn. So this is a completely different card now. So, the old Mana Burn dispelled the space and dealt damage, which was insane, and the new one deals 2 damage to each minion on or next to a mana tile. Now, this is where the mana globes are, and even after you take the mana globes, they're still there. So this is a pretty big box. Like, if you actually look at the field, this is a pretty decent box. You're hitting, I think, 17 tiles. Yeah, it's a pretty large box. And the reason I say it's a box is because it covers basically the middle 4 rows, or middle 4 columns, minus 3 boxes. It covers the middle 4 columns. There are 2 columns on the second player's side that are untouched by this completely, and there are 3 columns on the first player's side that are untouched, which normally I'd say would increase or decrease the power level depending on going first or second, but this card is terrible, and the reason for it is because it's situational AoE, so it's worse than Tempest, But the main reason this is bad is because if someone plays a Sunbloom on a creature or silences a creature, it gets rid of the mana tile as well if they're standing on it, and then mana burn does nothing. So it's already bad in the late game because it's a situational AoE, and it's even worse because it can get dispelled off the field. And then you've got Kinetic Equilibrium, which is basically the same card for 1 more mana, but you get a buff as well. And that doesn't see any play. So, yeah. I don't think Mana Burn will see any play, to be honest. In Gauntlet, it's still okay, but it's a bad Tempest. But anyway, on to the other card changed. Plasma Storm. Now, a lot of the people are expecting Metamorphosis to see changes here, but you still can't Metamorphosis Plasma Storm on the same turn anymore. So, Plasma Storm now costs 5. I think the reason they were going for this is that Metamorphosis is... Well, I mean, one is a legendary, so less people have it, but Metamorphosis is something which is a very, very powerful effect, but you need to combo it with something else to kill stuff, which partly is true and partly isn't. Just saying, because you got your general to kill the biggest thing immediately, but you can at least play around it, and they can't go Plasma Storm Metamorphosis anymore. So if you have your big creature far away from the general, then it's safe. So yeah, you can play around Metamorphosis now, and you can play around Egomorph now. Plasma Storm, 5 mana, it's still going to be played, because you kind of need to. But the point is, this is another buff to Vanar and Abyssian, because a lot of their creature-based strategies don't get wrecked by this card anymore, so that's nice. Now, the last card changed in the entire patch was the only direct buff to Vanar, Chromatic Cold, which is exactly identical to Mana Burn. Now, funnily enough, this also gives them some direct damage from hand, which is hilarious. But anyway, Chromatic Cold is, well, it's Mana Burn. It's very, very powerful now. Now, I kind of am disappointed they didn't rename this to Frostbite or something, or like Frostburn. But anyway, it still has one of the weirdest arts in the entire game. So, what does this do? This actually gives Vanar the most terrifying early removal I think I've ever seen. So, they have Chromatic Cold and Hailstone Prison, which is ridiculous. Now, compare that to Magmar, Old Magmar. Now, Old Magmar had a lot of early game removal, and they had Natural Selection instead of Hailstone Prison, and that is worse. Hailstone Prison can deal with anything. Natural Selection, not so much. And if they don't have a max hand size, they replay it, and then that's tempo loss. But if they do have a max hand size, it dies permanently with no Dying Wish, and that's actually better than Natural Selection. And you don't get screwed over by your own creatures. So, yeah, this is pretty good. Vanar also kind of got 2 new cards added to the game that benefit them massively. Well, I mean, they're 2 good cards in general, but one of them in particular just is really good with Vanar. But anyway, so we are going to bring up a window capture here with the new cards. Now, the way the season rewards work, since I actually figured out how these work now for once, is if you get to Silver, see if I can remember this off the top of my head. If you get to Silver, you get the Epic, you get a free copy of the Epic. If you get to Gold, you get a free copy of the Legendary and the Epic. If you get to Diamond, you get the Rare, Epic, and Legendary. And then if you get to S rank, you get all 4 cards, a copy of each, and also another random Legendary. So that's how the end of season rewards work, which is really cool, because it means that they distribute the Epic and Legendary to a decent number of players, which is a good thing in this case because those are the 2 powerhouse cards of this particular patch. Last patch, the powerhouse card was Jaxi, which was a common, which is kind of hilarious, but yeah. Now, for this patch, we've got Sun Elemental is the common. It's a 4 mana 3/3 with an opening gambit. Give 2 random friendly minions plus 2 health. Now, apparently this cannot buff itself because opening gambits operate before it's on the board, which is the same way it works in Hearthstone, or kind of, but Hearthstone doesn't even follow its own rules half the time. But anyway, so this is part of a cycle of cards, as I like to, well, they're kind of a cycle of cards. So if we go into neutral 4-drops in the background here, you'll see that there's 3 cards. There's Frostborn Naga, which deals AoE on a 4 mana 3/3. And then there is Lightbender, which has an AoE silence on a 4 mana 3/3. And now you've got Sun Elemental, which gives an AoE health buff. Now, we've seen in Gauntlet that these 2 cards are quite strong, but in Constructed, they don't really see play at all. In fact, Frostborn Naga sees 0 play, and Lightbender sees some play. Usually in vanar, because they didn't have a silence, but now they have a silence. So I don't see Lightbender seeing play anytime soon. So these are mostly Gauntlet cards. They're very good Gauntlet cards, though. Frostborn Naga is a pretty high pick, and Lightbender is also a decently high pick. Now, Sun Elemental requires you to have a board, but the effect is quite powerful. So I think this will be quite a good Gauntlet card. It's nowhere near like Hailstone Golem, but I think the card itself is quite powerful. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it at that. I think the card itself is good, but I don't see it seeing any constructive play. Prophet of the White Palm, 1 mana 1/1, opening Gambit, prevent all spell damage until your next turn. This is the single most overhyped card I have ever seen in almost any card game. It's kind of hilarious. So basically, a lot of people are saying this card is insane, but the thing about it is it doesn't actually do anything. I'm not even joking. So it stops spell damage. Now, you think, okay, stops what? Tempest? Yeah, it stops Tempest, but Tempest only deals 2 now, and also they can just wait for a turn. It stops Holy Immolation, but again, usually they can just play a Provoke, just stall for a turn and go for it anyway, and you have to play this 1 mana 1/1. So, alright, it's not fantastic there. Stops Songhai Burst combos, right? Not so much. It stops pretty much just Phoenix Fire and I guess Twin Strike, but it basically just stops Phoenix Fire Spiral Technique. Any of the crazy burst combos, like the Celerity Fox, or Lantern Fox, but I like calling it Celerity Fox combos, are all buff based. And buffs are not spell damage, so they'll go straight through. And all the artifacts are not spell damage, so they go straight through. And yeah, you see the problem here. Now, Abyssian does have a lot of burst through spells, but then they also have, like, their big, heavy hitting combos are actually a buff on a rush creature. Yeah, this is the problem here. And the other problem is against burn deck, you play this thing and then they just use their buffs, and then next turn they use their spells. So this has some issues. It also doesn't actually protect you against AoE, because a lot of, like, the other big AoE is Plasma Storm. So yeah, this is not actually a very good effect, strangely enough. It might be good in the future, but so far the only use of this that anyone's ever come up with that I found kind of funny and actually worth trying is Kinetic Equilibrium, because it doesn't kill your own stuff, which is funny, but I don't think that's worth it, but it's whatever. It's a fun combo. Iraqi Headhunter, oh boy. 2 mana 1/3 epic. Whenever you summon a opening gambit minion, whenever you summon a minion with opening gambit from your hand, this minion gains +2 attack. This card is terrifying. So this is basically a 2 mana 3/3 minimum, or 5/3 or 7/3. It gets really big really fast. It kind of reminds me of Undertaker from Hearthstone pre-nerf. Now, the reason this terrifies me is because if we just casually put in opening gambit, you'll look at the neutral stuff, if I can spell it correctly. Let's look at the neutral stuff. So let's say, what sees play already that has opening gambit? Healing Mystic in almost every deck, Primus Fist in quite a few aggro decks, Flameblood Warlock in quite a few aggro decks. We got Lore Master, which you can play in this kind of deck with a couple spells, and Rejuvenator. Yep, you don't lose anything playing Rejuvenator in an aggro deck now. And besides that, there's nothing big that really matters. However, the really scary ones are the mechs. All of them have opening gambit. Every single mech has opening gambit because they build Mechazor, right? Even after Mechazor is already built, they still try and build him. This is scary because it means that a mech Vanar deck can have 20 minions in it, and all of them buff Headhunter, apart from Headhunter itself. That's terrifying. Like, Headhunter is basically an alternate win condition. Jeez. The other crazy thing about putting it in Vanar, when I mentioned earlier they kind of got a card added specifically for them. Yeah, this is not a fair combo. Razorback giving it +4, and also Hearth Sister. Hearth Sister with this card is just stupid, because you can play it in the background and then grow it for a turn. Like, you only need to play it in the background, play 2 other creatures. It's a 5/3. if it lives, keeping in mind that it doesn't die to AoE and they have to use direct hard removal on it when they're under pressure, because it's in the background, right? They can't get to it. You play Hearth Sister. You swap it, becomes a 7-3. You play another opening gambit, becomes a 9-3, and you hit him. That's a 2-turn setup from a 2-drop and just playing the game. Because everything in your deck is opening gambit. So it's not like you're going out of your way to invest resources to buff this thing. And that's terrifying. That's really powerful. And that's an incredibly strong combo. That kind of worries me. It's a very, very powerful card. I would not be surprised if this gets nerfed to a 0-3. Because that seems really strong. The fact that it works with mechs is a bit insane. So that does worry me. However, that card does not worry me as much as the next one, which has already been nicknamed Keeper of the Value, as we're about to see. So, Keeper of the Veil. Keeper of the Veil, besides having one of the best looking models I've ever seen, is a 5-mana 4/5 legendary with opening gambit, summon a random friendly minion destroyed this game nearby. Now, keep in mind that the wording means that you can summon it, like you can choose where it goes. So you can choose where it goes. And also, it's not last turn that it was destroyed. It's in general. So if we look at the other resurrect effect, this is what we have to go off, basically. It's the other resurrect effect, which is, we've got Zuriel. Now, Zuriel isn't good. Why? Because you can't choose where they get summoned, and it only summons from last turn, which means you have to wait and have this in your hand for like half the game before it's useful. Keeper isn't like that. Keeper can just be played and get a creature whenever you like. Now, at first I thought, well, okay, so you're losing 4 HP on stats from a golem, and let's look at a 5-drop sees play. So usually you've got like 13 stats on a 5-drop. It has to have 13 stats on a 5-drop just if it's based on stat line. And like the golem, you've got 13 stats there, but you've got like other played 5-drops. You've got like Ironcliff Guardian and Lionar. So, and then in Vetruvian, you've got like the big stats on the 5-drop as well. The Scar, which is 11, but the Blast is worth 2. So basically, you're looking for 13 stats, basically. Just over 13 stats worth of value for a 5-drop to see play. So that's what we're looking for, right? Alright, so what do you need to get from the Resurrect on Keeper of the Veil to get playability? So it has 9 stats on its own, which means you need 4 to hit 13. You need a bit more than 13, so you need 5. You need 5 stats Resurrection for it to be a playable 5-drop index. Now, this is where things get scary, because then you realize that 5 stats is a 2-3, which is the worst case scenario Resurrect. I'm not even joking, that is the worst case scenario Resurrect that is even possible, is 5 stats worth of stuff, not accounting for the ability, I might add. Like, just 5 stats. That's the worst case scenario, and it's above average. That's really scary. What gets even scarier about this is that if you play it on curve, let's say you go turn 1, you're going first, you go 2-drop. Just any 2-drop. Say Healing Mystic. A lot of people play it, so nothing too crazy. Anyway, Healing Mystic. Then you move on to a globe and you play a 4-drop. Say Emerald Rejuvenator. And then the next turn you play, say, a 3-drop because you didn't have another 4-drop. So you play a 3-drop, and let's just, for the sake of this, use a neutral one. Let's say you play Tiger, kill something. So now you have your 5-mana turn. You have a Tiger, a Mystic, and a Rejuvenator that are all dead, basically. You play Keeper. You have a 2/3 chance to get 5 stats, one of which could have Rush, and then you have a 1 in 3 chance to summon a 4/4. This is on curve, and this isn't even that nuts. Like, you have a 1 in 3 chance to summon a 4/4. That's a terrifying amount of stats. Like, that is 19 stat total. Is it 19? 17, I can't count. That's 17 stat total. Now, to give you an idea of 17 stat total, let's have a look at Spellbinder. So this is just on curve, and Spellbinder has way too many stats for its cost, right? Yeah, Spellbinder has 16. This worries me. This is just on curve. You have a 1 in 3 chance to get a 5-drop with more stats than Spellbinder, and that's just on curve. The reason I'm saying on curve is because the later in the game you play this, the more powerful it becomes, because more creatures of a higher quality have died, which means you have a higher chance of getting something big. Now, the fact that you can choose where the summons also makes it ridiculous, and let's just say you're playing this in Lionar. This is where things get a bit silly. So if we go into minions that Lionar happened to play, and the filter doesn't really work here, does it? Anyway, so let's look at cards that I play in my Lionar deck. So we got Healing Mystic, which is 5 stats. Windblade Adept, which is 7, because you can summon it next to your hero, because you can choose where it goes. Arclight, 6. Silverguard, 8. Keep in mind that 5 is where you want to be. And then you've got Sunriser, 7, plus an ability you can abuse immediately and for cheap. Ironcliff Guardian, 13. Like, these are some big stat increases, and like, if you resurrect an Ironcliff Guardian, keep in mind, that's 22 stats. 22 stats is more than 7 drops. Way more than 7 drops. Like, the vanilla 7 drop has 20 stat total. And other 7 drops have nowhere near that many stats, because they lose it for their ability. Like, you've got Sinja with 14, Pandora with 13. Like, the idea is you lose stats for an ability. So, on a pure stats basis, this card is literally a powerhouse in every single deck. It works in aggro because it's cheap enough. It works in mid-range control. It isn't bad in anything. In fact, it's borderline overpowered in everything and is completely broken in general. Like, that's just a general thing. It even works with Headhunter decks because it has Opening Gambit, which is kind of funny. Now, Headhunter says from hand, well, from action bar, so you can't use it that way, although, to be honest, it's not even... Like, you play your Keeper, and you buff it, and the stupid thing is about this, is it's 4/5, so it dodges Plasma Storm. It doesn't get affected by Tempest, either. So you have to use hard removal on it, right? Or combat. But if you use hard removal on this, you only kill half of it. You only kill half of the card, or 2/3 of the card, depending on how lucky they were. So you're adding variance into the game on a broken card. Like, this is way more than Jaxi. Like, Jaxi also works with this, because it's actually 3/3 stats. So, yeah, you actually get above average value from a Jaxi. So, yeah, this card actually scares me. Also, if I ever resurrect a Pandora with this thing, I'm going to be laughing, because that's a fair amount of stats. It's 28. Yeah, 28 stats over 3 bodies, 2 of which need to be hard removed. That's just insane. Like, they can go Metamorphosis and attack 2 of my creatures, and I'm still on top. Against a hard removal spell. It's like against an AoE hard removal spell that is perceived as being too strong. That's just nuts. So anyway, get ready to craft your keepers. Yeah, this is basically Keeper Winter. He's keeping the Winter right now. He's gonna get nerfed next month. That's what I'm betting. I think Headhunter is a little too strong. I think Keeper is way too strong. So anyway, thank you all for watching. That's my full go over on the patch. I will be playing a different faction from Lionar for once with the season reset. I think I might be playing Vanar or Vetruvian. I haven't decided yet. It might be Vanar to start with since I have all the cards I need anyway. I don't need to craft anything. But anyway, as for now, it's been Jotto. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, put it in the comment section below. But as for now, thanks for watching.